A lot of people say you don't own a business unless it runs without you.
If you just niched on that one client, that'd become $100,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you just stuck with that client long enough, became the best for that thing.
Some of my best friends that I don't talk to anymore because business deals went wrong. So what did I do? In essence, I sacrificed the wrong thing. So I traded maybe an upper hand in business for a relationship. And dude, we live in this culture where busyness is like, it's like this, badge of honor.
Father, I thank you just for having an opportunity today to have Allan here on the show, God. And we just welcome your presence. Holy Spirit, fill the room up. God, I pray for a wisdom to ask the right questions, to pull the gold out of Allan. And God, I just pray for a spirit of courage and boldness on both of us. God, I pray that you speak through him. I pray that this isn't just another podcast episode to make content for the sake of making content, but I pray that iron is truly sharpening iron. I know that you have a call on this man's life. I know that you've put gifts, talents, ideas, dreams, passions in him, wisdom, experience, that he can impart something into us today. So, Father, I pray that seeds are planted today. I pray that the man or woman that's listening to this podcast, that something is planted that begins to grow in their life, that something shifts in their life, that they're inspired to want to press in, to want to live a life that honors you, and to want to thrive in every single area of their life. So we just, I give you this podcast as an altar, Father, that truly I just submit myself to you to honor you, to praise you, to glorify you, and to use what you've given me to make my brothers and sisters' lives better. So we thank you for this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Let's go. Well, guys, I'm pumped about this episode because not too long ago, I got connected with this incredible guy on social media, and I started vetting you, started checking you out, started looking at your content, and I immediately was like, man, this guy's got something on his life. You can just tell when people walk with something, they have something, and we finally made it work. Flew in today from Phoenix to be on that episode. So welcome, Allan Draper. And I want to say, guys, what I love, we were talking before we started this show, he's on a mission right now to really talk about the realness of entrepreneurship. And we're going to go there today. You guys are going to get some raw and real, what it actually takes to build a business, and how there's so much fluff and even content like this and social media and podcasts that create a misconception of business and entrepreneurship. And I'm believing today, Allan, that you're going to really cut through all the fluff and help us get to the raw and realness. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. No, I'm excited. I've been excited about this for a while. You put a lot of good stuff out there that I mesh really well with, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I believe that our assignment creates a divine alignment, right? We get to align with people that are like-minded. And dude, you're an OG. We were just talking, you're 43, I'm 30. You've been in business for a long time.
Yep.
You were telling me beforehand, I think 26 companies that you're a part of or run or own. And that's quite a bit of wisdom. That's a place you get to sit from now, having a lot of scrapes, bruises, cuts, scars, lessons, failures, to now speak from a place of having gone through it. Yeah, and I just think that's valuable, and I'm excited, man, to learn from you today.
For sure. No, dude, just struggles. Like, it's funny because our human experience, we try to avoid the struggles and the failures. It's a survival mechanism for us, for sure. But I look back over the last decade of my life, which I've spent building businesses, and it's like, that's the good stuff, man. You don't realize it in the moment, but that's the good stuff. That's the stuff that makes a lasting impression.
Come on, man. Well, I like to ask people on my show, I like to see where someone's heart is and what they do and how they operate. And I'd like to ask you, what do you value most in your life?
Yeah, so I love talking about personal achievement and improvement and personal growth hacks and all sorts of stuff like that, because I've been reading success books for the last 2 decades. And I was actually a psychology major when I did my undergrad. And so I've just been interested in human motivation for a really long time. And I have these I break down my goals into 7 different categories. And I think about them really weird. And it's not that everybody has to do it. It's just the way I do it. It's worked for me. And they're listed in order of priority for me. And at the top is God/my spiritual life.
Come on.
I've had a lot of people that I've looked up to over the years, really successful guys in business and entrepreneurship and building personal brands, all these things. And I see quite a few of them go through these crises of faith and, start discounting stuff that they once believed. And I honestly believe if you don't get the top few of these 7 categories, which I'll kind of cruise through real quick, if you don't get those right, it doesn't matter what happens down at the bottom. So in order of priority is 1 and 2, God and family. And those are really close. Like those could kind of be one and the same in a lot of ways. 3 for me is my mental and emotional state. Like how am I feeling? Like what am I focused on? Where's my motivation? How, things like that. Number 4 is physical. It's important to me, man. Like I've got to get a workout in like 5 times a week. I do a lot of cliche cold plunges and steam rooms. I'll do a lot of that stuff to take care of my body. That's number 4 for me. Number 5 is my professional life. What am I doing professionally? What are my motivations? What am I achieving? What am I after? And it's not till number 6 that we get to money. And 5 and 6 are separate for me. I didn't realize that they were different, but about 5-6 years ago, I realized I didn't have to work anymore, financially speaking.
Right.
I was in a position where I wouldn't ever have to work again in my life. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And it was for other reasons. And then number 7 for me is social, my network, my friends and things like that. So kind of going back to what I was saying before, and you don't have to break down things like that. I see people with 4 or 5 different areas or whatever.
No, but I love that,
But for me, dude, if it doesn't matter how much money I make if my relationships suck. And so right at the top, right off the bat, God and family. And it's cliche to say, but dude, I'm getting up there. My kids are growing up. And I'm starting to realize that that's the good stuff, dude. I've spent the last 6 weeks on an airplane, which was really hard for me, man. I just wanted to be at home. For a solid month, I didn't see any of my 3 kids play sports on Saturday.
Wow.
And so last week I had a funeral to go to, and I took a flight super early in the morning so I could see my 5-year-old daughter play her first soccer game.
Wow.
For me, it was her 4th soccer game, but it was my first time seeing her play. And it's like, dude, what amount of money would I give for this, So
that's so good.
Enjoying it.
Dude, come on. Thank you for sharing that. And, we've gone really deep into the faith category on this show and, obviously relationships and talking about the daughter. But I just feel led on the differentiation of you reach a point in your life that not a lot of people reach. You said 6 years ago where you're like, well, I don't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about how you got to that place.
Sure.
And then I want to talk about how you had the revelation of money and that achievement are different. And then from there, we're going to go deep into entrepreneurship and what it actually costs to get there.
Yeah. Like I remember one day walking into my office. So I was practicing law. I gave that up. It's a pretty cool story, but moved from Phoenix to Detroit to start a bug company, pest control company.
You're not from Michigan?
What's that?
I'm born and raised in Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so just small.
Right on.
Yeah,
That's crazy. So we didn't have any connections. I'd never been there in my life, and we just we liked the market.
So you're an attorney.
I'm an attorney. Yeah.
Okay, and an opportunity comes to start or to buy into or to acquire.
Started from scratch.
So start from scratch.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind at that point of leaving law, which is a very well-paying career, and you can build it, to starting a pest control company? Like, tell me about that. How'd that happen?
Dude, there are a couple of things. Like, I believe that being an entrepreneur it's a part of who you are. The older I get, the more I believe that. It's not, I don't think I chose to be an entrepreneur any more than I chose the color of my hair. I swear, dude.
Yeah.
I swear, like the older I get, the more I feel like that. And I was practicing law, and there's kind of a story behind it. I'll do the short version. But I right out of law school, I worked for the largest firms in the world. Thousands and thousands and thousands of attorneys. Very reputable firm, stuffy, white shirt and tie, suit coat on in your office type firm. That's not really who I am.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, no, I rarely put shoes on. I have a home office, so rarely, put shoes on. But one day I was in my office by myself reading a deposition, and my boss at the time one of the best attorneys in the Southwest, like commercial litigator, just a freaking dog, right?
Let's go.
He's talking to our client, asking him questions, foundational questions, beginning of the deposition. Our client was this big time business owner, north of 100 million net worth, just crazy business owner. And so he's trying to get to know him. Hey, tell us about what you did before you started your business, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I went to law school. And I could tell my boss didn't know that. He didn't know this about this guy. And he's like, really? You're a lawyer? He's like, yeah, I practiced law for a while. And my boss, this bad A big dog attorney, is like, I could tell he started asking questions out of his own curiosity versus
Like, how'd you get where you're at?
Yeah, he's like, so wait, why did you quit practicing law? And he was confused, like, why would anyone quit practicing law? And this is like 6 months later. I'm reading the deposition. I'm reading the transcript of this. I wasn't there in person, but bro, I could feel like the tension in the room. Like, and he's like, I got to the point where I realized I didn't own anything. And dude, that made a lasting impact on me. I've wanted to own a business since I was a little kid. I was a hustler, dude. I'd knock doors, rake leaves, shovel snow, do all that.
Let's go.
So at that
Same
moment, it kind of brought me back. It's like, dude, like, I got to get there. So it took me a few years, and eventually this opportunity came along, started a business. But kind of going back to your question, your first question was, how were you able to do that? I started in the pest control industry for a couple of reasons. First of all, I love the industry. Second of all, I didn't grow up in it, right? A lot of times what happens is people grow up in a specific industry because they love the technical aspects of it, right? I own a digital marketing agency, for example. And we're really good at what we do, but I'm not the one doing it.
Right.
I'm not good at digital marketing. My team is. So I didn't have this attraction or this affinity to pest control where, dude, I wanted to get down in the dirt. And like, there's nothing wrong with that if that's how, there are small business owners that do that. They love the technical aspect. That wasn't me, dude. I wanted to scale a company, and I was more of a visionary, set things up and continue to replace myself. So that's how I did it.
So
I
you
set
saw
up a
the
company.
potential of a pest control company, like as a business model.
Yeah.
And we're like, I can go build that and put an operator in
Exactly.
and scale that thing.
Exactly. And so it took me a few years, and I was the first technician, dude. So one day I was in court, suit and tie. 3 weeks later, bro, I was driving around a pest control truck spraying people's houses. It's the best professional decision that I've ever made.
Wow. Y'all catching this?
So I built the pest control company to scale, and then I built it to scale without me. And then one day I come into my office and my email's pretty silent. My phone's not ringing. I'm like, dude, I don't need to be here. And it's obviously an engine generating revenue for us. And that was kind of that moment.
Now, from there, did you go scale multiple locations and continue to build out the brand and business? Did you roll it up and sell it? Do you still run it today? What came next?
Yeah, so at that point, we had 2 branches, one in Detroit, Michigan, and one in Boston. And so I moved to Detroit, started it, lived there for about a year and a half. Then from Detroit, I moved to Boston, always with the idea of moving back to Arizona. That's where we wanted to end up. And so at that point, I was sitting in our office. We had a call center servicing those branches from Arizona. And so that was we had 2 branches at that point. Today, we still own the company. We have 10 branches. We have about 15 brick and mortars across a bunch of states from Reno, Nevada to Long Island, New York.
In pest control.
In pest control, yeah.
I have a question. I don't know. It's just prompted on me. Where were you relationship wise when all this happened? Were you married? Were you single? Were you dating? Did you have kids?
Yeah, so I was married. I'd been married for like 6 or 7 years before I started the pest control company.
So you were married, came an attorney, wife's with you.
Yep.
How did your wife respond when you were like, hey, we should move to Michigan and start a pest control company?
Dude, that's such a cool story, and I love sharing it because it really shows the type of person my wife is and how much of a difference it makes who your partners are in life. So I have 29 business partners, and I have a bunch that it hasn't worked out with, and I have a bunch that are going to be future business partners of mine. And dude, there's no way I could have done it without them, but that was kind of the start. So I remember this conversation with my wife where I come home from practicing law one day, and I'm like, hey, hey, Jules, I'm thinking about quitting my job. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, I think I'm going to start a pest control company. She's like, okay, right? And I think we need to move our young family. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old at the time.
So you did have 2 kids.
2 kids. I said, I think we're going to move from Phoenix to Detroit to do that. And she looks at me and she's like, let's do it.
Come on.
And so, dude, when you have, sometimes the best part about having partners and going through life with people is not necessarily the success you share, although that's awesome. It's, dude, you have somebody that believes in you when, a lot of times, dude, I have imposter syndrome worse than most people. And so a lot of times I don't believe in myself. And so it was that, and I was exuding that to her where it's like, I wasn't saying it very confidently, and I hadn't made the decision, and I hadn't quit my job yet, and I hadn't started the pest control company. This was like,
would you go as far as to say, if your wife pushed back hard, you might have never done it?
Maybe not at that moment.
At that moment, might have took a little longer.
Yeah.
But because she believed in you and said, let's do it.
Yeah.
It reinforced the confidence to move forward, knowing
For
she was
sure.
And I just got to say, because I wrote something today. I believe our wife's wifery is a product of our husbandry. And I believe that wives will submit to their husband and follow them if the husband leads well in the home.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the way you were leading in your home as a husband, and even now, has helped your wife be confident and comfortable to follow you into these ventures?
Yeah, I think to some degree.
Okay.
Dude, that's honestly, just to lay it out there, that's one area where I really come up short, man.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of room for improvement. Full disclosure, like I see a counselor weekly.
Yeah.
To help me communicate better with my wife. And we've been married 17 years, so we're not newlyweds, dude. But I'm actively becoming better. But no, I think that's a good question. I think it's partly true. I think there's moments where I've really excelled as a father and a husband, and I think when she can support me in what I'm doing, she leans on those moments. It also goes to show just the type of person she is.
Also, right? Because she also is a person. There's a personality type as well.
For sure.
Because there's some that naturally personality will push back more.
For sure.
Dude, thanks for sharing it and being vulnerable with that too, man. I think we need that now more than ever in the world, and we're going to go to some vulnerable things and some realness. I want to keep us on, so this kind of, we have a cool journey we're taking people on the way I see, like I'm visualizing this as it's happening.
Yeah.
And so you've started this, you've scaled these pest control companies. What then? Like, how did you get to the point? What happened from then to, were you at that point where, hey, I don't need to work for money anymore then? Did you have to do some more business moves? How'd you build wealth and create that?
Yeah, so about 6 years into the pest control journey, dude, I might have been closer to 4 years in. I'm trying to think back. I make that realization, and it was pivotal for me for a couple of reasons. One was, like, you always hear the question, like, and I was just reading a book yesterday, and the question was, hey, if you won the lottery, what changes would be in your professional life? What would you do differently? And I didn't win the lottery. Literally, I feel like I've won it, figuratively in a number of ways. But the honest answer is, dude, I would probably do the exact same thing I'm doing right now. And what happened when I realized that, I got really damn good at my job because I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it for something else. And when I realized that, I'm like, dude, I don't have to work. What am I going to do today? And it took me less than 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm just going to keep grinding. And then I realized, well, what does that mean for like the rest of my life? What about when I get older? Dude, I'm always going to be doing something. So that happened. I realized, like, hey, I don't have to do this, but there's something in me that still wants to do this.
So you had the revelation, I actually do this because I love it.
Exactly.
Not because I need it.
Exactly. And
that's a shift. Because there's that survival mode in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we have to break free of the survival mode. And then there's eventually thriving mode.
Yeah.
And then you question everything because you're
Yeah.
like, well, when I started, I just wanted to make money and survive.
Yes.
And now I'm way past survival. Like I got more than I need right now. I can buy
Yes.
anything I want. And then you question, why do I do this? But you hit a point very fast of, well, it's just who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's good, dude. I
So-
think that speaks to the entrepreneurs listening.
Yeah.
Like even me, like that's just how I'm wired. You know, like there's just like in the beginning, and I'm still on my journey, not that to that level yet by any means, but I've made really good money by 30 years old in businesses.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
started multiple companies, brands, and I just love it. I love it, man. There's those days in the journey of building businesses where I'm like, you know, that man, this is a lot of, why am I dealing with all this stress when I
Yeah.
could just go do this and just sit and make good money? And then I'm like, but I'd hate my life.
Yeah.
You know, like I like putting the fires out. I know that's weird to say.
Yeah.
But there's something about the fire presenting itself and having to figure out how to build a fire extinguisher, extinguish the thing, and prevent the fire from happening again.
Yeah. Well, I think it gives us, it adds value to our life. It makes us feel useful and productive. And, you know, we live in a crazy political climate since COVID. And, you know, it's easy to destroy something, right? What's hard is creation. And that, dude, in a lot of different ways, God has given that to us.
Yeah.
He said, hey, in these different areas of life, I'm going to allow you to assist me with creation. And the fact that, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm creating. I'm taking something that started as an idea and I'm creating jobs with business partners, or I'm creating a service that wasn't offered before. And so it's like, dude, this isn't just level 5 for me in my 7 things I work on. This is directly related to number 1 for me.
Yeah, because you're made in his likeness and image. And I just saw something like in Genesis, God created everything, right? And then he placed man in the garden. And then the first thing he told Adam to do was to begin naming the animals. He gave him a job. He gave him purpose. He gave him meaning.
Yeah.
And I've always read that over and over and translated that of God didn't just place man in the garden to just exist. He said, no, I know you're like me. And if I don't give you something to do that you get value and purpose from and meaning from, and he gave us dominion of the earth to create. And I think what you're saying is that I think how it shows up in each of us is slightly different. That's why not everyone's an entrepreneur.
For sure.
So you could ask, like, why? Well, if we're all made in God's image, well, the value in what you have dominion over and what you create just looks different than maybe Allan.
For sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do believe there's this opportunity for us to really perform and reach a certain level in this life. But we all go about it different ways. I always talk about my mom, and I just made a video yesterday saying like, hey, not everyone's an entrepreneur, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I employ hundreds of people that couldn't imagine doing what I do. And I couldn't imagine doing what they do. And it works. The system works.
It's actually beautiful. If you really think about it. No,
it's it just, that's the way that it functions. And one of my proudest moments in business is when I'll go to the occasional meeting and I'll hear about a new strategy or a new marketing campaign or some new design or some new people that we hired or whatever. And it wasn't my idea. It's like, I see these people building this company like it's their own. And so I give them that, ability, that freedom to do that. Cause it's such a good match, because I'm the opposite of a micromanager. Right. So, it's just not who I am. And this conversation reminded me of something that through my journey, I try to put, what's in my heart and mind into words. And sometimes I can't, sometimes I can, but because of my psychology background, it made me think of the entrepreneur's journey, and especially in terms of building wealth. And there's this concept that a psychologist named Abraham Maslow came up with called the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
The essence of it is, look, if I'm starving to death, I'm not worried about, what I look like or my relationships. I need to, fix my body, then I can worry about other things. So there's this hierarchy. And I believe that the entrepreneur has this journey or this hierarchy also that they go through. And when you start, you're okay at what you do. And then when you get toward the end, you get really, really good at it. And so step one is survival. It's like, hey, when I start a business, do I have enough money, food on the table, roof over my head, take care of my family, keep the business going? We're just trying to survive.
Right.
Step two, I see a lot of entrepreneurs and different entrepreneurs, they might skip one or spend different amounts of time. But I guess the idea for your listener is like, hey, where do I see myself in these stages? Step two is status. A lot of entrepreneurs want others to know that they've made it or they're doing well or their business is doing well. There's lots of different variations of this, but it's status. Step three is freedom. It's a freedom of money and time. So it's like, this is the progression. And then four and final is legacy. If you look at every entrepreneur, from a guy that's driving a pest control truck around to Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, whatever, you will see this process. So for the entrepreneurs out there, identify where you're at.
Yeah.
And as you progress, know that you're going to get better and better and better at what you do.
That's so good, man. And where are you living out of right now?
Dude, I think over the last few years, I've been like focusing on my legacy. Like what am I going to leave behind?
Yeah.
I like to say that the goal isn't necessarily for us to live forever. Our goal should be to create something that does.
Wow.
And we do that in all sorts of ways. We do that with our relationships, with our offspring, with our family, with our friends. If something happens to me, there's something left behind, right? My kids are perhaps my greatest legacy.
Come on.
So that's a big part of it for me.
So you're in legacy now, and what is the mission change from? And then I have another question I want to ask later that I just remembered. But what is the mission now that you're in that place, living from the fourth, part of kind of like Maslow's, hierarchy, but the entrepreneur hierarchy? What's changed? What's your focus? What are you doing with that? How are you building legacy?
So for me, professionally building legacy through doing exactly this. So I have my top level goal, my top level professional goal is to help 10,000 entrepreneurs make short-term sacrifices to build businesses and wealth. What does that mean? I'm on a mission to help 10,000 people start their businesses, because if they do that, then the likelihood that they, continue on that path and they eventually build wealth is very high. So I'm out here like hustling around. I was recording a podcast last week in Vancouver, Washington. And I'm going to be honest with you, dude. Social media, podcasting, all that stuff is a lot more sexy than pest control. But my wealth will always stem back to that and all the companies I invested after that. But so it's not building wealth for me.
Yeah.
It's something else. There's something more important at play. And so I see
getting
myself
your message out there.
Exactly. So that's where I see myself, over the next, decade or so. I'm going to have a couple of exits in the next 3 to 5 years, and then I'll start a private equity firm to invest in these startups.
So you're going to be raising up a generation of entrepreneurs to make short-term sacrifices to win in business, and also a PE company where you can invest in businesses as well.
Exactly.
As private capital.
Exactly.
That's genius. I love the model. You hit on short-term sacrifices.
Yeah.
What does that mean to those that don't know? And go deep, don't hold back on what you've seen in your journey of the true short-term sacrifices we have to make as entrepreneurs, and even go to the misconceptions right now in the world.
I like that you caught that, because there's a difference. The reason why I mentioned short-term is because anything that's a long-term sacrifice is probably not the right move. And a lot of what I've learned about this is through failure. It's just from me doing it the wrong way. It's from me burning bridges with partners. Some of my best friends that I don't talk to anymore because business deals went wrong. So what did I do? In essence, I sacrificed the wrong thing. So I traded maybe an upper hand in business for a relationship. And so I'm trying to learn what that is. There were weeks where, maybe not weeks, but there were days upon days where I didn't see my kids. They would wake up after I left the home and they would go to bed before I got back. That was a sacrifice I shouldn't have made. And that was a sacrifice that was unnecessary. And dude, we live in this culture where busyness is like, it's like this, badge of honor, and we're doing it wrong. Dude, I'm the first offender, and I'm trying to learn about what that is and what those sacrifices are. Now, do you have to sacrifice for business? Absolutely, unquestionably. Like the things that I'm kind of leaning toward are you sacrifice security for freedom. You sacrifice who your network is sometimes. If you're hanging out with folks that are bringing you down, not the best habits. One of the most surprising things, Cody, that I realized was that when you start a business, there will be people actively rooting against you, and it's not your competitors. Sometimes it's the people that are closest to you. It's your family and it's your friends. And why do? They don't do it because they're trying to be evil or kind of get back at you. The reason why they're doing it is because we have a tribe mentality and we want people to stay in our tribe. We don't want them to leave. We don't want them going out and doing other stuff. It's like how we survive, right?
Yeah.
So we see somebody and we're like, dude, that guy's starting a business. Maybe he's not going to have time for me anymore. Maybe he's going to miss family dinners. And then maybe mom and dad are like, well, I don't want to see him fail, so I'm going to try to talk him out of it. That was the case with me. So, there's so many sacrifices, but my goal is to let's identify the ones that are necessary without sacrificing what matters most.
That's so good. So what are those things? Because you teach this, it's a message you speak. What are the things that you believe entrepreneurs should be willing to sacrifice? And what's the best way to go about doing that without compromising on these other things that we shouldn't?
Yeah, so I'm right in the middle of writing a book about it,
so
and so my list
plug.
is my list is about 12 items long. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember.
Yeah, no,
all
just
them off
whatever
the top of my
ones,
head.
and then we can also tell people how they can get the book when the book comes out.
For sure. So, I mentioned one. You're going to sacrifice a change in your relationships. Some are going to improve. Some are going to get worse. You have to sacrifice this idea that you're going to make more money immediately. When I went from practicing law to starting a pest control company, I remember sitting in my office, I had my white shirt and tie on, just kind of daydreaming. And I was like, I'm going to make more money and I'm going to have more control over my time. And both of those things were wrong. But here's the kicker. So I made less money and I had less control over my time in the short term. But now, look, I have classmates of mine I went to law school with. They're in court. They're in a building right now, grinding it out. And good for them. They're probably happy. That's not the life I wanted to choose. So we have to sacrifice initial freedom and control over my time, because I went from having one boss in the law firm to having every single one of my customers was like, because I was the one answering the phone. I was at their beck and call until I could replace myself. I sacrificed money. I was making less money. I sacrificed comfort. I sacrificed just going to work, getting a steady paycheck, just feeling like secure, right? So security is one of them. When you start a business, you become very vulnerable. And the funny thing is that all of these things have a good aspect to them. That's not all bad. And so my goal is to help entrepreneurs see hey, this is how this actually helps you. So when you become vulnerable, I always say that entrepreneurs, they're under a microscope.
Yeah.
Right. All their customers are picking at them and their business, and all the people that work for them are doing the same, and their family and their friends, and everybody's picking at them.
Which also forces you to get really good.
Exactly.
When that many people are sharpening you and criticizing you and looking at you, you either can't handle the pressure and you'll quit, or you stay under the microscope long enough that you become refined.
Exactly. So, and some people don't necessarily want to go through that, but it's a really good thing. And I remember I have a perfect example of this. Dude, I used to think I was really approachable. I thought I was a really approachable guy. couple of years into the first startup, I became aware of something a few days after it happened. And I was like, guys, why didn't you tell me about this? Like, what's going on? And they kind of hem and hawed, and it took a couple of days, and they're like, dude, honestly, we tried to tell you about it and you just kind of shut us down. And I was like, no words, dude. Because what they said was exactly true. And it's like, dude, I used to think that I was one way when I was the other. So anyway, it just, there's this opportunity for us to grow. Another thing is that our identity changes. People struggle with that.
Yeah.
You have to change from, I'm a startup entrepreneur, fast forward a decade. Now I'm an angel investor and I'm a coach. It's like, dude, that's a huge shift. I go from being the lab rat to being the one like with the white coat on. You have to hold to your principles during that process, which is difficult.
That's good, man. That's so good. Yeah, I'm soaking it in. And, one of the things too, you talked about with the, even being under the microscope, like I'm still on that. And I think we create and it kind of ties to identity too. Being an entrepreneur is really popular right now.
Yeah.
It's very glorified on social media, right? Like I laugh now because I'm like, entrepreneur is the new rapper.
Yeah.
You remember how like there was like the
that.
90s, it was like being a rapper was like a thing. Everybody wanted to be a rapper, a lot of people at least. It's kind of now entrepreneur. And I will say the evolution of technology, you were talking about how you started building businesses before all this social media stuff.
Yeah.
The evolution of social media has done a couple things, good things and bad things. On one hand, it has created an ecosystem where we have a laptoppreneur generation.
Yeah.
Which is actually really cool.
Very cool.
The fact that I can grab that backpack, I have an iPad in it that has internet on it. I can go anywhere in the world and I can run my companies.
Yep.
And I can make a lot of money if I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Amazing. Connects with people all around the world, created a whole new ecosystem and economy of businesses in the way that we operate our businesses. On the other hand, it also created a fallacy of what it is to be an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Yeah.
And so now you have a lot of entrepreneurs that don't even own an LLC, but that's like in their bio.
Right.
Then you have ones that own an LLC, but they've never actually made money in their business, right? And I feel like when I got in, I think about me and I'll be vulnerable. So I was entrepreneurial like you. At 13, I knocked doors. I started my own yard business. I did corn detasseling in Michigan, blueberry picking, and yard work for neighbors to buy my first laptop because my mom was so poor. My dad was in prison. Like I've always had the hustle in me. Hustle's been all I've ever known. There was a period in my life, though, where I was really trying to build like a brand online and videos and a business, and I was not making money. Like I was like, and I had that microscope on me, and I had so much like you hit on it earlier, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, I was trying to like speak a message, and I felt like it, and I was in that in between, and I had to go through some refinement, and maybe I was speaking a little above where I actually was, and it was a really uncomfortable phase for me. I stayed under the microscope long enough, and I stayed in the game long enough that I made the cuts that were necessary, the refinement, and I started to get results. I started to produce. I started to win. I started to get wiser. I started to get smarter. I see a lot of my peers now in that place in their life, in the social media generation, where it's like to have a dream and want to build a business is amazing, and I want as many people to have that as they can. It's another thing to really produce in your business and to actually learn how to run and operate a business. How do you feel like this generation with social media and that can learn from someone like you that before you had to build a business? Like, I guess just what wisdom would you pour into that? Because people are there, man. A lot of people are in that category. They haven't even made a few $1,000s every month in their business.
Yeah.
They want it though. Like, what would you say to them?
This is going to be a really unpopular comment. You don't own a business unless what you have scales without you. A lot of people say you don't own a business unless it runs without you. A lot of people say, like, hey, I don't have a boss. The truth is, a lot of these, and they call it solopreneurs.
Yeah.
Right? And I love it. I love the hustle, and I understand that there's a process from the breakaway. I used to have a job when I started my first startup. It's a natural progression.
Yeah.
But you don't have a business. You have a job.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's better than having a boss or whatever. But when you have a business, you can do pretty much whatever you want, and your business still scales. That's a business. So if you, so I acquire companies that I'm adding to my portfolio. And one thing we look at is, one of the very first things is, what is the owner's relationship to the business? And the deeper the connection that the owner has with the business, the less that company is worth. Because we're like, well, what happens when we take the owner out? Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to trade places with them. I love the hustle, and you hit on a bunch of really cool things. This is a great time to be alive, man, to be an entrepreneur. It's such a great time. But let's do it the right way.
Yeah.
If that's what you want. If you want a job, work from your iPad from home, control your hours, put yourself out there on Fiverr, be a 1099, whatever. The funny thing is you're still working for somebody.
Right.
The
Your
paychecks
clients.
they're just coming from somebody else. You still have a boss, and that boss is a lot more powerful than your boss that's signing your paychecks, if you think about it. I was just talking to a young entrepreneur recently, and we were talking about what it means to be an entrepreneur and how technology has changed things, and whether it's easier. He asked me, hey, is it easier to start a business now or 20 years ago? And a lot of people are like, yeah, it's easier to start now. And in some ways it is. There's tons of technology. Like, I can have clients. My digital marketing agency, for example, is headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. We don't have a brick and mortar. Right. It's awesome. I don't have that really high fixed expense. The issue is, well, if my business is there and it's servicing people in all 50 states, that means I'm competing with other digital marketing agencies all over the United States. Back in the day, man, you'd have to go into somebody's office, sign up for the Yellow Pages or a billboard or whatever, right? And so the bad thing is that technology makes it so now your competitor is worldwide. So this is the kicker, dude. And so he asked me, what do I do? And the answer is, you niche until you are the only viable option. And a lot of people are scared with a startup. My law firm, for example, when we started, someone walked in the door, we helped them. Over the years, we've become much more specialized. We can charge more and all these things. We enjoy what we do more. But when you first start, you're like, dude, I'm going to do whatever I have to keep the lights on. And
right.
I understand that.
Well, it's also in that hierarchy. Survival is the first one.
Exactly. But if I'm, so I mentioned, dude, if I'm you, what I do is I just drill as deep as I can, not wide. A lot of entrepreneurs make this mistake and they go wide. The cool thing is that if you go deep, you're still going to get people in other areas. You will.
Yeah, you naturally will.
People will still come to you even though they see you talking about pest control. I have all sorts of folks that are asking me to coach them on all sorts of different businesses, even though I spend a lot of time talking about pest control. So I would drill down deep, and then I would give 90+% of the information away for free. That's what I would do if I were starting right now.
If you're starting over, that's so good, man. And I love how you talked about the difference of before the geographic location and having like market niche, and how today we have to drill down to figure that out. When I started, I was shotgun approach. And I call what you're saying drilling down a sniper rifle approach.
Yeah.
Like I go from a buckshot to a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Like a very specific target with a very specific bullet that I'm shooting for. And I had to do this in a lot of my businesses, man. I mean, I made the mistake. And I think the thing that tripped me up, I just want to say it for the viewers, is I had some success. I think the biggest thing that messed me up is like, true. I would hear that and I'm like, but I made 10 grand true. Last month.
That's very
and
true.
You're just like, yeah, but if you just niched on that one client, that'd become 100 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you just stuck with that client long enough, became the best for that thing. So that was my tripwire. Because I heard that and I was like, well, bro, I feel like I went from 0 to 10K, like at the time or whatever, and I'm making money and I hear you, but people were buying. But then I found it was a lot harder for me to become the expert. You talked about, so like, you're good. You go to really, really good at what you do.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to become really, really good serving a bunch of different types of clients with my products and services. I've owned digital marketing business for 6 years. There was a time when you were my client and I hate building websites, and you'd be like, man, we need a website. And we figured it out. And I'd get like $6K from you to go build your website, and I'd be pulling my hair out 2 months later. Why did I take that $6K? Why did I take on this project? I'm not a website builder. I hired all these contractors. This dude messed it up. I had to fire him. I lost money. I had to hire this other dude. You keep messaging me about the website. I'm not working on your website. I don't even like building websites. And I had like this trend, and I made that mistake enough to finally say, this is what I do really well. This is my wheelhouse. And then I would go find a website builder and be like, hey, I have no interest at all in doing this.
Yep.
And you do good work from what I've seen. Can I refer my clients to you? Give me some kickback. And I started removing all these things from my shotgun to get my one sniper rifle, but I still had that like arsenal of the Rolodex. And I would monetize now, bringing in the client acquisition, bringing the business to other people, and sticking to my lane. I guess, have you ever used a similar system in building your companies?
Yeah, I think that's the natural progression of a lot of them is, hey, we're going to keep the lights on. And I always say that, I like to say that the entrepreneur's journey and their time is like this. Step 1, they do what they have to do. Step 2, they do what they're good at. Step 3, they do what they want to do. And those are not the same thing. So I understand the philosophy, I understand the mentality, and I fall subject to that too. Like, hey, maybe we're this or maybe we're that. Find your identity and stick with it. And yes, you can survive. I love your story because you're like, wait, I'm making money doing it this way, and it's like, yes, but you'd make more money doing it the other way.
Right, and that was my tripwire. And now like, and I'm stubborn. So I might have had to touch the hot stove a couple times.
Yeah.
But after a while, I figured it out, and now I've gotten it's always finding the right who.
Yes.
So now I've gotten really good that I figured out this. I have an AI startup company, and I've pretty much removed myself from the entire process. Right. I still do some of the sales and client acquisition because a lot comes through my brand. So I still got to figure that out, that component. I don't really mind doing it. I kind of enjoy it. But all of the fulfillment, very sniper rifle than what we do. And I was thinking, as you're saying that, I'm like, well, am I a business owner? And I have a couple assets of businesses. I would say I'm probably close. I don't know if I'd say I'm fully there because I'm not fully removed. I could leave for 2 weeks. I can do the 2-week vacation test, but to fully remove myself from the company, not yet. So it was an interesting litmus test for me to go through, like, where am I at with that? You know, that was interesting.
Sure.
We're coming to an end here just because of time, Allan. Mm-hmm. And I have one question I want to ask. Why pest control? And I meant to ask this a long time. Why'd you pick pest control?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's funny because now I have like 100 reasons. But back when I started it was really popular to go door to door during college and sell, and you can make 20, 30 grand, go back to school. And it was kind of means to an end. And so I did my undergrad at BYU in Utah. And so it was kind of a fad.
And you did door to door?
I did a little bit on the security side. My brother got really into it. He stayed with pest control during the time that I went to law school, exited a company when I was practicing law. And that's what kind of kicked that off.
Okay. And you saw what he did in the pest control, and you'd done some door to door. Okay, so I just was curious, like, so why'd you pick that? Was it you were looking into margins and numbers, you saw opportunity, market, but it was because you knew there could be a good profit made in it?
Yeah, dude, the thing is that I got this question the other day, like, hey, Allan, how much luck is involved in what you've been able to achieve? And the older I get, the more I attribute it to luck or blessings or something relatively outside of my control. But here's the kicker, is that the longer that you're in the game, the more that blessings or luck or fortune or whatever can have an impact on you. So pest control is incredible for so many reasons. I don't like to say this too much, but during COVID, we grew. There's business getting shut down left and right. Our market grew. It's very stable. Your exits are huge. I heard about a multiple of like 18 on EBITDA just this week. Show me a business. Software's not getting that. Software's Probably depending on a few things.
14 best.
So bug guy? Yeah, hell yeah, bug guy. The financials are strong. Your net profit, it's easy to start. But here's the kicker. Like, and I own an online course for pest control companies, helping them build. It's another project I'm working on. Dude, it's not a sexy industry. Our job is best done when people aren't thinking about us. Think about that. When they think about us, we've done something wrong. They saw a spider. Where's my bug guy? Geez, got to call him. It's not a sexy industry. We're just a step above janitors, I think. And I love being right there. Dude, I love coming from white collar to blue collar.
Going and buying up non-sexy businesses with great profitable margins at scale that people need, especially service-based. That's incredible. Yep. You're writing a book.
Yep.
Do you know the title yet?
Don't have a title yet.
For when the book comes out, what can people expect from it? How can they find it when it comes out? And then also, how can they connect with you right now to follow you, get plugged in, learn from you?
Yeah, so my website, kind of the answer to all those questions. So my book's going to be on there. That's how you can connect with me, allandraper.com. Very active on social media, especially Instagram. I reset my Instagram recently because I got sick of all the fake followers and the fake crap that was on there.
Yeah.
And so I'm at real Allan Draper. It's less than a year old. My Instagram is, but I'm active on there. I do this thing where I have 2 slots a week for people, whoever they are, take 15 minutes and just run their business by me. It can be anything from partnership issues to how do I start my business. And so I do that. I invite people, if there's no fee, I'm not selling you anything. Just call me. I love helping startups, and that's what I'm all about.
Guys, that's what I want you to do. I want you to blow this guy up. I want you to go follow him, engage this content. I'm going to give you a ninja hack. If you really want to get Allan's attention, this is what I would do. I would have this podcast and I would screenshot it and I would share it on my Instagram story. I'd go follow him first and then I would tag him in it and I'd put, man, my top takeaway from this podcast is, so he sees it and gets notified about it. And then I would follow up with a voice message to DM him and say, hey, I heard you mention at the end of the episode that you'll do a 15-minute call. Could I schedule a call with you? Guarantee you'll get his attention. He'll respond and he'll do it.
Heck yeah. 100%.
That's how you get someone's attention. Allan, dude, I want to honor your time, man. Thank you for flying on an airplane.
Yeah.
The ultimate sacrifice, being away from your wife and your children to come here to be on this podcast episode. I don't just do this to make content, bro. I believe we're impacting people's lives. So thank you for your investment, which is the greatest investment, your time, your energy, your effort, traveling, your presence, to be on the show today. It means a lot.
I hear that, man. My pleasure, man. So happy to be here.
And I'll let you close us out. Last words for the audience.
No, I think we get to this point in our lives where it's like the struggle feels like it's too much. It's in different areas of our life too. Whatever is on that other side is worth it. And a lot of times we don't see. It's like a quilt, man. When you look on the underside of it, it looks all messy and nasty, and you flip it over, and it's like, man, I've created something great. So whatever that struggle is, it's worth getting to the other side.
Come on, guys. Well, there you have it. Allan Draper, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks,
and we'll have the audience. Woo!